Hello. I'm just recording kind of brief video just to show like how I think I'm gonna be working with work trees for at least the next little bit. I think I have it set up more or less how I like it. So I feel like in general how people tend to work with work trees is or first of all, I guess I can clone it. Okay, so I clone it. Actually, I don't want to do that. So I feel like the way people tend to work with work trees is they do or like one of the common ways, especially by like the Primogen popularized and stuff like that, is you do a bear checkout. So then if I go into okay, so now like basically there is no .git folder. Like the checkout is the internals of the .git folder. This is generally used for like remote repositories, not one that you're intended to work in. Now people have found it's kind of nice if you're working with work trees because you can just do git work tree add, or that's not gonna. Oh, is it gonna work? I didn't actually realize that worked. What I was gonna do is git work tree remove main, because usually you have to specify the folder and then the branch. But anyway, so I was gonna do this, which I guess is the same thing in this case if you have a local branch. Anyway, not important. And then you can like cd into main, and then you have that, like you have this branch here that you can work on. So one of the, like a couple of the things that I don't really love about this is you have like all of your branches kind of intermingled with Git's internal data structure storage. So you have its objects, like the work trees information, your hooks, and then branches isn't really used, it's kind of being deprecated, but anyway, not super important. So like your folders for your branches are kind of like intermingling with all of Git's internal data structure stuff, which I don't know, I don't think it's that nice. So then if you go into main 2, it doesn't tell you how main is in relation to origin main. So in general, with a bare repo, it doesn't check against the like origin remote reference. And apparently you can get around that with doing like in your git config, you do like fetch equals some like refs, whatever. I don't know. I don't know much about it. Supposedly it's not super efficient or it's not that great to mess with. I'm not a huge fan of this approach. If you like, I think it's all right, but it's not my favorite. So then, like, what's the alternative to this? So now if I just remove it entirely and I do not a bare checkout, but like a normal checkout, or like a normal clone. So if I cd into that now. Okay, well now I'm just on main like normal. And then what I did for a while was I would do make dir other branches, and then so if I do git status and then cd other branches, I can do git work tree, or first of all git branch dash all to see which branches I have. So it's really just this like mouse translate and rotate whatever. So if I do git work add, and it's gonna be mouse translate and rotate. Not this one. This one kind of breaks, but this one works. So in other branches, I can do mouse translate and rotate, git status. You can see that this one actually tracks with origin. So like it tracks with the remote version that's been pushed. The issue is when I go back to main, you can see like, oh, other branches is technically this like directory that's being included in the main directory. So now I have to do like modify the git ignore, and then have to do other branches and commit that. And then if you're like on another branch, like checked out, then you have to do that as well. So it's kind of annoying to do that. And then even more so, the thing that kind of bothers me even more than that is like you have to remember, okay, what's the one that's like checked out at the root of the directory? So for example, like right now, main is like the one that's like at the root of the git directory. It's like the main one checked out. And then within other branches, that's where you see like the auxiliary branches. But maybe like, I don't know, you just have to remember that main is the like current one checked out. So main has like kind of special status, which, you know, it kind of does anyway. because that's one that's like the default one on like Git, GitHub, stuff like that. But I don't know. I just want to have all of my branches next to each other, main next to any other reference that I have, and then be able to track the remote repository, stuff like that. So this isn't the most elegant. And so what I was thinking was like, okay, well maybe I can just have like the root checked out to like a dangling commit or like some temp empty commit or whatever or branch, and then maybe that would be good. So that's essentially what I started to do. I'm just going to go all the way back out and then just delete it and then clone it again. Yeah, not the bare version. So if I go into UX Bake-Off 2, so now again, we have main checked out. If I run git branch, main is the only branch we have. If I run this command git null, which is an alias that I have set up that I'll show in a second, it makes this, and then I run git branch again, it makes this null branch. So if I git check out this null branch that I have, and we look at the contents, there's a git ignore, there's a branches directory, and then there's like the normal .git folder. So if we look in the .git ignore, we see it only has the contents branches. So it's saying just ignore that other folder we have. And then if we cd into branches, it has like a placeholder because you can't just have it like, this is technically a commit. You can't just have an empty directory. Git tracks files, not directories. So you need to have something in here. So I just have like this empty .placeholder file just so it works. But yeah, so now that I'm in this .branches, I can do git worktree add main. And then I can also do git worktree add translate and rotate. And then if I, now like both of those directories are right next to each other, there's no special privileges kinda. And then you can see like, okay, null is technically the current one checked out, but in my work trees, I also have access to main and mouse translate and rotate. And then if I just do a tree, I guess let me back up a little bit. You can see like, okay, branches is actually where I do all of my work, and I'm not going to do anything else in this folder. Like this null at the root, I shouldn't do any work in here. And it just kind of remains empty, keeps everything together. And then if it still like tracks to the remote, so like origin, it still tracks and gives you updates on like how you are in reference, are you ahead, or are you behind. So I just think it's a little bit cleaner, keeps things a little bit more organized in my opinion. You don't have to work next to Git's internal folders, there's not as many drawbacks. I feel like the only main drawback here is like, there's a lot of nested, like so you have to go into the Git repo, then you have to go into branches, then you have to go into the branch you want to go into. So it's a little bit of nesting. It's not that's probably the main thing I don't like about it. Everything else though, I think it works better for me. I think it keeps things a little bit cleaner. .git is kind of still in its .git folder. So like all that content still stays there. I don't have to work beside it. Yeah, so then if we like look at the actual git config, you can see what the null, you can also see like some different variations I was working with. So this version is if you don't include the .git ignore in the branches directory. This is if you only have the .git ignore, but you don't make the branches. This is the one that I currently have that is running. So this is making the .git ignore with the content branches to always include the branches. It also makes the .placeholder, puts that in a blob, and then hashes that blob into a tree, and then in the final tree it has both the blob of the .git ignore and the tree of branches placeholder. So it's, if you're not familiar with Git's internal structure, it doesn't really make that much of a difference. Basically, this is just essentially what the null alias I have is doing. Kind of a pain to get this working, but it was interesting to learn more about Git's internal stuff. Yeah, so I don't know. I think it works well for me. I'm just playing around with it. I think it works really well when you have like a directory or like a Git repo where you're hopping around a bunch of branches all at once. And I think it's just a little bit cleaner. I think I prefer the nested directory issue over not tracking remotes all that well and working aside, like right next to Git's internal data structure stuff. I think I'm willing to make that trade off. So yeah, hopefully this helps somebody. I spent a decent amount of time getting this working and set up. I'm really enjoying using worktrees. Yeah. Hopefully this helps somebody. If you have any questions, let me know. Yeah, hope you have a nice day.